So this was kind of the prompt that we put out there, or that Dr. Rose created. Consider the following questions for others about belonging. What does it mean to belong, to fit in? What do we belong to? Clubs, families, etc. Is belonging like membership? How, why, and to whom does belonging matter?
When have you felt like you belong? When have you felt like you didn't fit in? When have you impacted another sense of belonging? We're welcoming different members of the Villanova community to come up and share their performances in regards to this theme about belonging.
Okay, and we're gonna run through the names one more time. So is Connor Jealous here? Jealous? Alex Iden? Alex Iden? Reed Conlon? Dan Cozy? Alex Valajandres? Alright, so first, Dr. Lisa Sewell's here. Alright, so first up is Caroline Reedy. Caroline is a junior criminology and English major, and she's in Dr. Lisa Sewell's poetry class. So, Caroline, do you want to come up? Get up for Caroline.
I'm going to read a poem that only sort of answers the prompt. Sorry about that. It's called What You Cannot Recall. The good old days are the memories you cannot quite recall. When your one lone fear had been learning to walk around and not fall. When you're small, naive, bumbling, learning to breathe the troubled air. In a quaint time, when nothing and no one required you to care. When death was a cartoon villain who tried to trap you in his court, you were the majestic one who possessed a crowning sword. For you the one who could put an end to skeleton death. With one simple, utterly powerful thought, you can bereft. You march with your sword in your preschool much jovial faces, with the kind, happy, crooked smiles that will one day need braces. The good old days are times before you remember tragedy, before you recognize the sad faces weighed down by gravity. Your parents offering their weak smiles and choking back themselves, and when you first see someone big and brave like your sweet parents saw, then you'll have the capacity to see the evil of it all. For the good old days are the memories that you cannot quite recall. Instead of vast sticks itself in your mind when you forced to merge, and bad memories allow anxiety and freely flourish. For a time until your first tragedy, you stick somewhere beneath, and it feels to me a troubled, hardened way that you've learned to breathe. It makes you wake up in the middle of the night, 5 years old, takes away everything and wants me to feel incredibly cold. As a devastating nightmare, making you believe you're dying, your simple, utterly powerful thought turns weak to start crying. Bring the bad, if it pushes the good, turns to state of weak state, and you're left to face that strange, slow new villain named reality. But this time you no longer possess your great crown and your strong sword, and reality has no grounds to trap and no start for it. For it's not only the good old days where death is vile and fair, and not a chance to free yourself from braving that troubled heart air. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a heads up, all of these refreshments are here for you guys, here for the taking. Please feel free to go crazy.
And throughout, like while you're listening, if you guys feel prompted to come up and share something, you're more than welcome to do so.
Jake. So now I'm pleased to announce Jake Steinberg, who graduated in 2016. He's come home to grace us with his presence and share a performance with us. So give it up for Jake.
Oh man, come home to grace you with my presence. They don't remember me, do they? Hi everybody, I'm Jake Steinberg, and I get to talk about belonging, which is fun, because I came to Villanova armed with a big nose, curly hair, the name Steinberg, and a voice that begs me to say, what's the deal with, things like that. So belonging was something I thought about a lot here, right? And I think I actually found it. So I want to tell you this story about a girl, okay? I know it's a little silly, starts with a girl, but I gotta tell you about this girl. So it starts over in St. Mary's, okay? And I'm sitting there and she sees me working on something probably stupid, and comes over with this carton of strawberry ice cream and says, "Will you share this with me?" In love. Okay. So this girl has freckles on her face that make you, search for them. And you're wondering what she wants to say or what you want to say to her. It was something, So I kind of eat in her words as I'm eating this ice cream, and I'll never forget that day. Mostly because I'm fatally allergic to strawberries. So I had to run back to my dorm room and stab myself with my EpiPen. I really felt it in my heart then. So about a year later, this girl never stops being amazing. If you remember me from Villanova, you'll know that I was sick. I lost my hair. And I guess I sent her a text at like 4:30 in the morning, some gibberish that no one could understand. She breaks into my dorm room and finds me covered in sweat, shivering, crying, barely conscious. I wake up covered in blankets and towels, and she's sleeping on the floor. So now we're 2 weeks before graduation, right? I belong here. Jake Steinberg belongs here. She shows me a text from her mom. "Listen, things are getting serious. You're about to graduate. It's time to dump the Jew." Yeah, I forgot about that too. And when I'm here standing, talking to you all, wondering about what belonging means to me, I realize I have this V stamped on my heart. And when I think about what belonging means, all I can think about is that I'm still here talking about the girl that brought me strawberry ice cream. And I'm kind of happy about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jake. So next we have Dr. Shawna McDonald. Yep, she's really cool. And she's a professor in the communication department and co-director of programming for Gender and Women's Studies. And she's gonna shed some wisdom on us, so give it up for Shawna.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So I study lighthouses. And a couple of years ago, I wrote an essay about lighthouses and belonging. And it had some poems in it. So together, I'm calling them my blue period. There is nothing quite so perfect as a blue sky for miles, except maybe a blue sky with a sparkling ocean beneath it, reminding you of the impossible, magical variety of blue. Put a white lighthouse in the center, a seagull perfectly placed. Do you take a picture? Do you close your eyes and let the light live on the inside of your eyelids? Do you wish you could live there? I do. All of the above. Never mind that I have a job to go back to. Never mind that a person cannot be a lighthouse or a seagull. I'm not in the picture. I love landscapes. I have for a long time. I'm magnetically drawn to the aesthetics at the nexus of the natural and the human animal. The seagull framed by the wind turbines across the bay, the old red barn in the middle of the hayfield, the brick factory overtaken by the forest down the gravel road. I was a child who lived in my own mind. The 5 years before my sister came along were formative. I had a vivid imagination, and the world in there felt more consequential to me than the world in front of me. I'm not sure I ever grew out of this, which may explain my propensity for getting lost. Put me on the water, let me set foot on a beach, or sit me on a train through a vast mountain landscape in the presence of blue, and I'll be present as breath. Just don't interrupt me. I'm making charts to guide me home. Did you know that every lighthouse has a distinctive signal at night and during the day? It's kind of poetic in a no two snowflakes are alike kind of way. It's also true. If they were all the same, no one would ever be able to find their way. I defended my dissertation, became doctor, flew to the tenure track, my belongings trailing behind on unknown highways. I found myself lost in a city I couldn't sink into, a wonderful city with green, open spaces, blue sky, the Atlantic Ocean, a drive away. A city, nonetheless. I had never lived in a city, and turns out these country bones have a hard time sinking into concrete. I chose the suburbs, found community there, and the freedom to move between. I don't think I'll ever get used to the shiny class expectations of this place or the names of the highways. I dove straight into the blue, gut first. Snapshots and pieces of words float by. Did a shipwreck? Where did these fragments come from? Keep swimming. Into the wind and the waves. Don't look up. There's got to be a map here somewhere, right? Keep swimming. I became a solo traveler on a quest for light. I found words to cling to. I found light in towers, in the footprints of morning, in the brightness of friendly voices. I learned to listen to my body, to space, and to others. I learned that I map space into the fibers of my being so that finding my way back becomes a winding, twisted affair, clinging to ropes of my own weaving, tugging on threads of memory coiled around the deep remembrance of place and architecture. I learned, most importantly, that lighthouses only work if they are where they are supposed to be. My maps are drawn with bare eyes and a camera lens, the sounds of seagulls and children and stories breathed out, the scent of bread and breakfast muffins breathed in, sea salt air, the vibration of memories in concrete, stone, and wood. My maps are voiced in the vernacular of the maritime. My maps are personal and political, whether or not I want them to be. I couldn't draw you a map of the Jersey coast and its highways to save my soul, but I can tell you what the ocean looks like from atop Cape May Lighthouse, or how the fading casino landscape clings to the dunes around Absecon, and I can paint you a word poem of the gardens at Hereford Inlet, sing to you of seagulls off of Seagirt. I got lost every time I drove to the Twin Lights, but I can tell you how it feels to stand in its shadow and look out at New York Harbor on a sparkling summer day. I can feel the stories of old Sandy Hook vibrate in my bones if I close my eyes. And I probably can't help you smell the bay breeze from the top of Barnegat, but I can try. What I have learned at this point is that mapping space and place is a difficult, varied, personal and political act of knowing, engaged in by individuals and communities alike. An act that has emotional and personal consequences. What I have learned at this point is that people can only work if they are where they are supposed to be, psychically as much as geographically, and can only speak from where they are. What I have learned at this point is that lighthouses need people as much as people need lighthouses. I hear them calling me. I'm putting myself in the picture. And oh, that blue can swallow me happily whole. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. McDonald.
I now have the privilege of introducing Dr. Lisa Sewell of the English department. Please give her a warm welcome.
Okay, well, that was a hard act to follow, I think. So I'm not a performer, I'm a poet, so this is going to be probably not as lively. So I teach in the English department, and I teach courses on poetry and poetry writing, but I also have taught sometimes at Graterford Prison. And I don't know if you guys know about the program at Graterford, but Villanova, I think for the past 30 years has run a great program there where the prisoners can take courses and earn a BA. And I've taught there twice. It's been a really transformative experience for me. The second time I taught there, I taught this class on poetry and social movements. And I taught this very famous poem by Allen Ginsberg called Howl. And I had all of my students in the class write their own howls. And that was a transformative experience for me, and I wrote a poem about it. So, and one thing that you might need to know to understand the poem is all day is like slang for a life sentence, and all day and a night is slang for life sentence without parole. So this is all day after Allen Ginsberg and the men in English 4615. All day and a night, the men carry their howls inside and are carried. They are inside and unsafe. These lost men and mislaid boys, juvenile offenders, coming of age behind high walls and high water, breathing in the prison-numbered air and breathing out fantastic, nearly fatal susurrations and pleas, small and furred, oiled or seething howls that are like the rations they keep, tucked up in the cut, behind and in between those always under guard and always hailed open corridors, the halls and alleyways of no and no imagining, of pat down and strip search, having been those best minds and having borne all indignation, eating the lamb, the starry dynamo, and last radio, in the soup and in the animal, all day and a night. All have suffered and been the reason, committing crimes of the century, the moment or week, free and unfree, and more inside in cells that I've never seen, standing for count 4 times each day, herded and hurt from maximum block to laundry or shop, from ding wing to dining hall, on the yard or in the hole or the hospital for observation. In the library and education wing, and here, in the windowless, white boarded classroom, are chairs circling the empty space, one man's arm on my desk, almost touching mine in the human air we breathe as the white shirt stands guard. And holding your pages up to my face, I'm with you, Eddie and Akil, Terrell, Hakeem, and Cody. I'm with you, Lawrence and Phil, though you are seasick and landlocked behind your DOC-issued glasses in your regulation browns, wife beaters, and brogans. I'm with you in your clauses, your rhymes and alliteration, breathing in your lists of prisons built on toxic waste and garbage dumps, your holding cells and cages. I'm following the syntax of systematic processing, of flat weeding and random checks, and 60 plus on J-Block against all regulations. I'm with you in your isolation in the yards of dope boys and stick-up kids, the corridors of graveyard life and Walking Dead. I'm with you as you pass those dead men flyers without blinking. I'm following the long and short of your simple and compound sentences, your endless endurance, learning the holy news of leaky bodies staying human, of the conditions and indignations you strive to keep off limits and off the page, painting an inside that might protect me from the non-life and sorrow that I will drive away from with nothing but my wishes. But I'm with you, or want to be, and when you, and you are not safe, I shake the windows of a minor key, unlatch the silent walls, letting in a taste of open. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For anyone who has signed up to perform but hasn't checked in with us, please do so. And if you haven't signed up to perform but would like to, please also check in with us. Also, another reminder, refreshments are right there. Please eat us out of house and home. That being said, let's bring up the next performer.
So next we had an impromptu sign-up. Her name's Sybin King. She's a freshman. And so Sybin, come on up, wherever you are.
Hello. Okay, I'm kind of short, so okay. I didn't really do the prompt where I belong. That would have been a long thing now that I'm here on campus. I wrote a poem about who I am. I was asked that like a week ago. Can you guys hear me? My poem is titled, damn. I'm gonna just do this. We're just gonna do this. Who am I? I am Angelou's inspiration that exceeded limitations. I am Gandhi's patience, waiting for peace and cooperation. Yet I am X's passion, violence only in reaction. I am Benjamin's hope, fighting in a war that will never repay him. I am Betsy Coleman's vision, saw what could be and winged it. I am Langston Hughes' creativity, art filled with message and life lessons. I am Rosa Parks' feet, willing to stand for beliefs. I am Ray Charles' senses, redefining magic touch. I am Ali's stamina, fighting my way to victory. I am Huey and Angela's mindset, ready to die for a cause if necessary. And in them, I am born. I am history.
Thanks so much, Simon.
Thank you so much. Now we would like to welcome Abby Juergens to the stage. Give it up for Abby.
This is called Ocean Beach. The two of us stood listening to the murmur of daybreak. Air, cool and sticky, slightly salty. Sand beneath our toes, cool and soft. Just us and the morning sun, scintillating rays welcoming us into the day as it glistened against the ocean. Pops of light bouncing off the surface and sinking back to the ocean floor. My eyes fixed on the horizon, mesmerized by the waves crashing in and out, always in a constant, effortless motion, just like my breathing, in and out. Slowly, water would creep up and reach my toes, covering my small feet and slowly returning back, an endless ebb and flow. The waves always knew their way, the ocean calling them back, like lighthouses calling fishermen back to shore. They knew where they belonged, where they had a purpose, where they fit in. They were home. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Abigail.
We're going to run through some of these names one more time to see if anyone has showed up. We have Alex Iden, Connor Jelks, Dan Cozy, Alex Vlahandreas.
All right, nobody's here. All right, so finally we have Dr. Heidi Rose, and she is the head of the communication department. She's really cool. She's a great performer and a great professor, and she is going to do a little impromptu performance for us.
Give it up for Heidi.
Thank you.
Is Jake still here? Did Jake leave? He left? Oh, okay. So this actually got inspired by Jake. So I sort of felt guilty having all of you come up and do stuff, and then I didn't do stuff, and so this is sort of an anecdote more than a full story. So I was a brand new PhD, very, very excited to get my first job, and my first job is here. And I moved across country. I fell in love with this campus. I never paid much attention to my own Jewish identity. Yes, I know I'm Jewish, but it wasn't in my body. I didn't feel it in a profound way until I got my first wild card. And I wish I still had my first wild card, because when I looked at it, there was a giant crucifix coming out of my head. I showed it to my parents, and we laughed that there's a giant crucifix coming out of my head. And so we laughed, and then I thought, but is this going to matter? All of a sudden, I thought, is this going to matter?
And through the years, I realized, well, of course it matters, but not in the way that scared me, right? And not to, see, this is why you have to practice these things, because I have no real good ending. But of course it matters, and it matters in a good way. We share things, we don't share things. There are things I don't understand and will never understand, but it matters in a good way.
Thanks so much, Dr.
Thank you
Rose.
so much, Dr. Rose.
So if anybody else wants to come do a little impromptu thing, you're more than welcome to. If not, thanks so much, and yeah, have a good night.
Go Cats.
And thanks, want to just thank the Office of Mission and Ministry for sort of making this whole thing happen.
Thank you. Have a
Have a good night.